They were cited as a major influence for Monty Python, The Goodies, and even The Beatles. The 1950s cult comedy classic The Goon Show launched the careers of Peter Sellers, Spike Milligan and Harry Secombe, and had an incredible impact on comedy as we know it. The classic sketches and shows have been revived by several Australians and have been performed all across Australia for several years as The Goon Show Live. And the main cast joined me in the studio this afternoon ahead of a special Father's Day performance in the Hunter Valley in the coming weeks. Now let me just press all the buttons to turn all the mics on. In the studio we've got John, Robin, Simon and two Davids joining us here on 12:33. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Before we talk a little bit further about how everyone got involved in the show, let's do a little bit of a setup about The Goon Show itself. When I was talking to a couple of people about this show today, they kind of mentioned, how do you know about The Goon Show? I'm a 20-something-year-old, and I was actually introduced to The Goon Show by my grandfather, listening to a lot of the shows, and then seeing a couple of live performances as well on TV and various collections there. I thought it was fantastic, but at the time I didn't know how groundbreaking it really was.
Yeah, well, the Goon Show Live, the Goon Show Live is a recreation of the original Goon Show, and the original Goon Show, primarily written by Spike Milligan, some scripts by Eric Sykes as well, and Larry Stevens. We're trying to revive that and revive that wonderful spur-of-the-moment comedy. The Goon Show itself originally ran from 1951 to 1960, and it's actually still rebroadcast around the world today. So the fan base is certainly there with people sort of 50 and onwards, but we're finding that there's a great new range of fans that are jumping on board because it's just completely and utterly silly, and it's wonderful.
Even doing a search online, there are numerous sketches and entire shows on YouTube which just show, and with hundreds of thousands of views, which just shows how interested modern audiences are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the favourite things that we love doing about the shows that we perform is hearing people saying how much it sounds like the original thing. We've actually had one lady who was visually impaired come along to a show, and she, like myself, grew up with the Goons through her father, and like yourself, through your grandfather, and got to appreciate it that way. She's never seen the Goons, but because she was visually impaired, it was wonderful to get feedback from her. She said it was so much like listening to the original broadcasts that she used to listen to when she was a kid, which was quite a compliment for us because that's what we're trying to recreate, but also introducing a bit of audience interaction and taking that to a live performance.
That's got to be an amazing review from someone who hasn't seen The Goon Show and hasn't seen the performers, just to hear it. Absolutely incredible. So let's go through kind of personal stories. How did everyone discover The Goon Show?
Okay, well, we've all come from different backgrounds. I myself are primarily a voiceover background, so I've been doing voiceovers for probably about 15 years, 20 years if you count childhood as well, and love of character voices. I mean, my hero when I was growing up, pardon me, was Keith Scott, who still does the voices for How Green Was My Cactus and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he's got a whole swag of movie credits to his name as well. Well, he was my hero. And growing up as a kid, I used to copy his voices and talk into a little shoebox tape recorder and try and reproduce that and put on radio shows and all this sort of stuff. So it got me involved in doing more and more voice type things, and eventually I took up a career doing voiceover work. So my experience with performing live is very much a performance-based through the Goon Show and through some of my other work that I do, MC work and so forth. These are all quite accomplished actors. I mean, Simon and David and Rob, they've all done quite a bit of acting. Simon's a very accomplished writer. David here is a fantastic singer, our crooner for the show. Absolutely great. So we've all got different backgrounds. I mean, you guys want to take it? I mean, Rob's had an acting background.
Yeah, I have indeed. But how we got into the Goon Show, when I was 8, I think I built my first crystal radio receiver, if anybody ever remembers those, and used to listen on a Sunday night on my little headphones to the Goons and just think, these guys are crazy. Those silly voices, which then, of course, I went to school and mimicked and got into big trouble with, always talking in class, but the teacher never knew who it was because I used all sorts of different voices. And that's it got me into acting. I just loved those that craziness and those silly voices, and here I am still doing them.
And doing them very well, I must say.
Thank you.
Joining us on 12:33 is the cast from The Goon Show Live. Show is coming up, a special Father's Day dinner and show event on Saturday the 6th of September out in the Hunter Valley. We'll give you more details soon. While you've been performing this to audiences around Australia, what has the audience reaction been like?
Mostly awake.
I've been amazed.
We're quite grateful for that.
I've been amazed to watch how many people are lip syncing along to the actual show.
Yes, you hear them whispering the lines before you deliver them.
It almost becomes like seeing your favourite band or something like that and singing along to a song.
Yes, very much so. For some of these fans, it's almost the equivalent of seeing a tribute band. Is exactly the right thing there. And a lot of these guys say, and if you miss a line, they'll let you know. It's like if you love Monty Python. I mean, Monty Python. Still to this day, the Pythons will quite openly admit that they had a lot of their inspiration from the original Goon shows and also from Spike Milligan's Q series on TV, which is just the same sort of humour. Yeah. And these guys admit that was a big influence on it. Well, fans will recite Python. I mean, I myself am a Python fan. Yeah. And you just recite the words over and over. And if you miss a line, these guys know.
Oh, they know it.
Yeah, and they know when you're ad-libbing too. And
which is the other thing, they really appreciate when a line is slightly missed and how we get out of it.
Yes, we do a lot of ad-libbing ourselves.
Well, a bit, yeah. That's
a lot.
The whole aspect of the Goons was the fact that a lot of it was ad-libbed in the first place, although we don't stick. We stick in unintentionally. We don't stick to it, and usually the ones who do know it word by word really appreciate how we get out of that situation.
Yeah. Yes. We've actually had feedback. Some fans, even new fans, have said, we loved it when you guys stuffed up. We loved it. Because they just love to see how we're going to dig ourselves out of the hole. And the more we perform together, the more we actually try and trip each other up, just for a bit of fun. And, we're doing it to each other all the time. And it's quite interesting sometimes the stuff that comes out to dig you out of that hole and get you back on track. They love it, yeah.
So you're keeping everyone on toes, really, the entire time. Not sure what's going to happen.
Especially with sound effects. If I push the button at the wrong time, it can be very exciting.
David's... I was going to say, David Attrell has actually got. We've got two Davids. So David Attrell is our Wallace Greenslade for the show, and he's actually got quite an important role because he works our sound effects for us as well, which were recreated specifically for the shows. But yeah, David's got to read his script. He's got to watch the timing, and he's got to get those sound effects right on cue. And we got to. I mean, let's face it. The Goon Show was actually theatre of the mind. It was all done on the radio, and the wonderful silliness of it was because people just could imagine this ridiculous scene in their head, and the sound effects carry the gag.
That was a really exciting thing, going as a child and hearing this stuff. Obviously, with TVs and movies and all of that, my brain was becoming quite dull and just accepting everything that was on the screen. But when I was listening to sketches and things like that with interesting uses of sound effects and playing off each other, and just the absurdity of it sometimes as well,
absolutely,
was brilliant. It was kind of just like opening a whole new world.
Yeah.
And looking at comedy now and looking at the rolling impact that they've had on it, the absurdist humour really wouldn't be the same if it wasn't without them, if it wasn't showing audiences out there what could be done.
Exactly. I mean, there are lines in Goon shows. I mean, there's one scene in a classic episode called Robin Hood where Neddy Seagoon and Eccles are trying to escape from a dungeon and they can't reach the window to get out. So Neddy gets on Eccles' shoulders, and I still can't quite reach it. Well, I know, Neddy, I'll get up on your shoulders now. You get up on my shoulders, and you've got this absurd scene of two guys climbing a wall just by themselves. And then, of course, they realise they can't float in midair. It's like the classic Warner Brothers cartoon type of thing. But yeah, there's just some great gags in the show. But the show's also, originally when it was performed, of course, had musical interludes through the show, as you may recall too. So that was Max Geldray, who played a beautiful harmonica, and also Ray Ellington. Now, at great expense, you can see here that we've had David Watkins blackened up. He's got a beautiful tan on him like this to look as much like Ray Ellington as possible. But David does a fantastic job in the show. He actually warms up the crowd for us. So we do he does about half a dozen to a dozen numbers before the show, and you can always tell when you get a good crowd because if the crowd's singing along and laughing at David's jokes, then we know we're in for a
None
really
of the
good
cast
night.
laugh at my jokes. So.
No, we've heard them way too many times.
Yeah.
And seeing that as well, obviously people coming along in for... They're up for anything, really. If they're coming to the Goon Show live, they're up for anything. And obviously, it seems like you guys deliver.
And it's a whole package. I mean, you've got the warming up and dinner drinks, and then you have the meal at theatre restaurant type thing, as well as the fact that it's. I mean, we have the opposite of what John was saying earlier about the vision impaired lady. Is we've had people also who've were in the audience for the original Goon shows. And they have said how close it is, in fact, to what they remembered from being in the audience when the original ones were recorded. So we've had both sides of it. That it looks like as well as sounding like the original.
It's quite a compliment, really. I mean, we have honestly had fans come to see the shows over the last couple of years. Some of the ones of note, we had a wedding proposal at one show, live.
Yes, that was in our first season.
Which was very, very strange. So somewhere out there...
He looked like a teenager to me. I don't know how old he was. But he certainly wasn't one of the 60-year-olds.
Somewhere out there, we've got a bride and groom who have the cast of the Goon Show live pretending to propose to his bride-to-be, somewhere out there. We've also had people who have flown from New Zealand specifically to see the show, just for 48 hours. In the recent shows, we actually had a couple fly from Nottingham, England, to come and see it. Mad keen Goon Show fans. What else do we have? We've had people travel from Tasmania, interstate. Perth. It's been amazing.
We're starting to get groupies because we've got people who have seen...
Cream will clear that up there.
Yeah, I know. It's a bad disease, and I've been scratching and scratching. It'll never go away with that kind of behaviour. But we've had people who have seen our first season at Katoomba, our second season at Katoomba, people who have come to Warrawee to see it. And we suspect they'll be following us up to the Hunter Valley when we perform there. And every time there's always questions, are you coming down this way? Are you coming down that way? Are you going this way, that way? We are working towards getting dates out at other parts of the world. But our first, I guess, off-mountain... out of the Sydney area? The Hunter Valley.
Is the Hunter Valley. And it's nice to be in the Vineyard area. It's a beautiful area. Area. The great thing about performing this show is that we're also able to recreate some of the interaction to some degree. Because the original show it was always performed in front of a live audience and recorded live. But, of course, we all grew up with just hearing that. So it's been almost like secret squirrel stuff, you know. You never knew what these guys actually did on stage. You could imagine, and you'd hear the stories about how Milligan used to love tripping up the other two and so forth. But there is only a little tiny bit of footage, I believe there's some floating around on YouTube, of some of the shows when they actually did another series on BBC television. And so... the amount of visual footage that we've had to go on has not been great, but we've sort of pieced that together and then taken that into the show and tried to develop that interaction with each other. When someone's delivering their lines, you know, what would one of the other characters be doing? What would one of the other performers be doing at that point? And in some cases, when our crooner gets out here, you know, we'll pay out in him or vice versa. We've got to watch him. He's a cheeky one. But
I'm a Welshman. I can't help it.
That's right. Well, David's originally from Wales. And
makes up for the fact that I'm not.
Yeah.
I have to coach them all the time on their accents.
But
don't say it that way, man.
It's not that bad, really.
No, it's not that bad, really.
We're working on it.
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself.
What the dickens, I tell. What the dickens they call me.
Before I lose control of this studio right now.
No, it's the people in the studio. You've got complete control of the studio.
Save your energy, lads. Save it.
It's around 14 to 2 here on 1233 ABC Newcastle.
14 to 2?
In studio, we've got a...
well, it could be 7 to 1, but it isn't.
The members of the Goon Show live here before they do a special Father's Day dinner and show event in the Hunter Valley. We'll give you more details soon. Guys, do you want to perform something? Do we want to get something on the radio?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay.
Round the back for some brandy, folks.
Right from the Green Slade story, I take up the line. How did he come by this rapturous applause? It is with heavy heart and light kidneys that we tell you...
The Green Slade story, or...
Winds light to variable. My name is Snag.
Hello, Snag.
John Snag. Thank you, Sir Ian. It was in June 1954 that the lad Wallace Greenslade first came to the BBC seeking refuge from hard work.
Good morning, Miss... I'm Mr. W. Greenslade.
Oh, yes, you've come for the vacant post of announcer.
Yes, I have.
Do take a seat with the other applicants.
Thank you. I sat down next to a man wearing a brass deerstalker, white cricket boots, and a shredded cardboard wig.
Hello.
Good morning.
Winds like the variable.
Pardon?
I said winds like the variable.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, winds like the variable. Yeah, I'm practicing, you know.
Really?
don't tell me you're applying for the post of announcer.
Oh, yeah, and I'll get it too, you'll see. I'm wearing a Cambridge tie.
You were at Cambridge?
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Buying a tie.
Mr. Liddell will see you now, Mr. Eccles.
Oh, fine, my good woman.
You were improvising some sound effects.
Yes, I was. Can't I improvise sound effects?
Knocking on the door.
But it should be door closing and opening.
Well, I don't have a door to close and open.
Are you sure?
I can give it a go. Hang on.
Oh, Nick.
What?
Quick, get that boy some oil. He sounds greasy.
We should sign up this lad immediately. Oh.
Wait a minute. You ain't even heard me speak yet.
Well, we'll write to you.
Well, that's no good. I can't read.
Will you come in now, Mr. Greenslade?
Thank you, madam. I was led into the presence of a BBC official. I took off my shoes and knelt down.
Now, Mr. Greensleeves, can I hear you say something?
Certainly. Winds light to variable.
By Jove, you couldn't have picked a more appropriate phrase.
Oh, it was nothing.
Oh, come. Say it again, with a smile in the voice.
No, of course. Winds light to variable.
Delicious! Quite enchanting. Now, say it as though it were a national catastrophe.
Oh, winds light to variable. Oh.
Very touching, yes. Yes, quite touching. Now, yes, I think you have it, Mr. Greenslade. You can start work straight away.
Gad, me, a BBC announcer.
Shall we jump over to another quick one? We got time?
Absolutely.
All
We've
right.
got time here. It's around 11 to 2 here on 12:33. I'm joined by the cast of The Goon Show live, giving us a little sneak peek of what's to come for the Hunter Valley coming up in a couple of weeks.
Well, let us read now from the script of the dreaded batter pudding hurler of Bexhill-on-Sea. Mr. Greenslade, could you please set the scene?
Okay. The English Channel, 1941. Across the silent strip of green-grey water, in England, coastal towns were deserted, except for people. Despite the threat of invasion and the stringent blackout rules, elderly gentlefolk of Bexhill-on-Sea still took their evening constitutionals.
Now you make the sound of an ocean going in and out,
We
please.
need some ocean sound effects, Nick.
Oh, hang on.
Beautiful. David, look at set this in.
Oh, dear. It's quite windy on these cliffs, Minnie.
Yes. What a nice summer evening, Henry. Typical English summer evening.
Yes, the rain is lovely and warm. Minnie, I think I'll take one of my sou'westers off.
Oh, you devil, you.
Yes. Here, Minnie, hold my elephant gun.
Oh, dear. I don't know what you brought it for. You can't shoot elephants in England, you know.
And why not?
They're out of season.
Oh, does this mean we shall have to have pelican for dinner again?
Oh, dear, I fear so, Henry, I fear so.
Then I'll risk it. I'll shoot an elephant out of season.
No, you can't shoot an elephant out of season, Henry. You naughty man, you can't do that. Elephants must not be shot out of season, Henry. You can't do that, Henry. It's not right.
Listeners who are listening will, of course, realise that Minnie and Henry are talking rubbish. As erudite people will realise, there are no elephants in Sussex. They're all found in Kent, north of a line drawing between 2 points, thus making it the shortest distance. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fantastic, guys. I've got the cast of The Goon Show live here on 12:33 ABC Newcastle. Just watching you perform, you all get into, when you're doing the different characters, because you're not just doing one character the entire time, you're jumping back and forth.
That's right, yeah.
And you really are kind of, the mannerisms are there, you're moving your body, you're moving your face, you're moving everything around to really get into those characters.
Well, some of the scripts that we're doing, for example, the Greenslade story, originally featured John Snagg, the actual BBC announcer John Snagg. So I've got to do his voice, and then I've got to swap back to Grid Pipe Thin straight away.
It does help, but they've all got
so you
split
You're used to
personality.
talking to yourself, John.
So you kind of go from John Snagg back to Grid Pipe Thin, yes. Neddy.
You're all mad.
I fear you've arrived too late, Mr. Seagooden. And, but there's some great characters in there. Major Dennis Bloodknock. He's an absolute cad. If there's a scheme to be had and money to be made,
I'll be in it, yes. Oh, there's no flies on me, but they'll be back again in the spring. Oh.
Well, Bloodknock, why don't we show them a bit of Napoleon's piano, where you're trying to steal my kipper?
We've got time.
Well,
We can
we've got
get
time.
something in. Fantastic. It's around 8 to 2 here on 12:33. We've got the news headlines coming up, but I've got the Goon Show live cast in the studio to give us a little sneak peek about a show that they're putting on Saturday the 6th of September out in the Hunter Valley. More details to come. Launch in, guys, whenever you're ready.
Where from?
Here we go. We're on page 13.
Are we?
Yes, page 13.
Unlucky.
for those people without television, please turn to page 13.
Yes. Now,
Now?
late that night, I checked into a French hotel. Next morning, I sat in my room eating my breakfast when suddenly through the window, a fork on the end of a long pole appeared. It tried to spear my kipper.
Oh,
Who the blazes are you, sir?
I'm sorry, I was fishing.
Fishing? Fishing?
Yes.
This is the 34th floor.
Oh, the river must have dropped.
Who are you, sir?
I've got it here on a bit of paper. Let me see. Major Dennis Bloodknock, late of the 3rd Disgusting Fusiliers, OBE, MT, MT, and MT.
What are all those MTs for?
I get 2p on each of them. Oh, you don't wish to know that joke, I suppose. No.
You're acting suspiciously suspicious.
Oh?
I've a good mind to call the manager.
Call him. I am unafraid.
No. Why should I call him?
Then I will. Manager,
Oui, monsieur.
throw this man out of my room.
Ah!
I am loving the sound effects, the use of the microphone. I can tell you guys are all pros and willing to do
there
it
are
on
a few
the fly.
cons. There are a few cons.
$50.
It's only a rumour.
We've already had a couple of texts in. Bob and Grace say, The Goon Show, live on the radio. Fantastic. Well, if you want to see them live and in person, The Goon Show Live is presenting a special Father's Day dinner and show event on Saturday the 6th of September at the Sebel Kirkton Park in the Hunter Valley. Bookings online via thegoonshowlive.com.au. Give us a call for more details on 1300 33 1233. Gang, thanks for joining us here on 12:33 ABC Newcastle.
Thank you.
Really interesting insight to see
very well.
everything.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.